Hi everyone, it's Desiree, and I just wanted to real quick pop in and wish everyone a happy Mother's Day if you celebrate Mother's Day. If not, I hope you're having a great day anyway. So we're just going to make some real quick cards here, and I'm using stamps from Rubbernecker. And what I love about these stamps, and they have others as well, is it's a quick way to get a watercolor look. And it's in a 2-stamp system, and they are red rubber. So I am a fan of the red rubber. So there's just a certain way that you can work with them without going crazy. So we're going to use the stamps. I've set up my grid. I'm also pulling in my Nuvo shimmer powders, which I'm absolutely in love with. And the colors I'm using are Atlantis Burst, Catherine Wheel, Solar Flare, and Cherry Bomb. And we're also going to use some distress inks in Tumbled Glass, Worn Lipstick, Wild Honey, and Spice Marmalade. There are also other things that you can use, color mediums, to work with these. So I've added my water to my shimmer powders and my small palette, and you can see they also have a pearlescent look to them. So to work with these, you want to make sure that you do keep the packaging. I'm using an acrylic block. They're by Tim Holtz, and I've actually used some washi tape to mark the size of the paper that I'm using. So you want to grab the top solid part of this stamp set, and you're going to position that over this piece. Now, I'm doing this a little backwards. So you want to move the acrylic block first, and you're going to place the first section of the stamp set down onto the picture they give you, because it matches, it's the actual size, and put your acrylic block down to pull that up. And where this is going to sit is where that's going to sit on your piece of paper. Now the paper I'm using is Canson XL watercolor paper, because you definitely want to use a watercolor with this. I'm using my first distress ink in Tumbled Glass, and then I'm going to grab one of my paint brushes. This is a Nuvo paintbrush. They do have a set available, and I'm just dropping some of the shimmer liquid that I've created onto the area of the flowers. Not worried about where it's going. I just want to put some of that color down. You're also going to need a water sprayer, so I grabbed my sprayer and I just spray it about 3 times. And then I'm going to flip this over and stamp that down onto the watercolor paper. And you can see that paper sits right into the area that I marked off with the washi tape that I put on the acrylic block. And this is what you get. So they just look like spots. And you can do this without a stamp set, but this kind of helps. And I'm just going to drop more color in. I want the colors to do what they do. I want them to move in the water. I want them to blend on their own. So I'm just adding a few more drops of the shimmer powder in there. Going to set that aside to let that dry. So now we're moving on to the next one. Again, I'm using my distress inks. This time I'm using Wild Honey. I'm placing that layer down, and then I'm dropping in some more of the shimmer powder. This color that I chose is Catherine Wheel. And again, just dropping that down, we're going to spray, and we spray off camera because I can't have my whole area getting wet there. And then we're going to place that down. So again, when I'm putting down that acrylic block with the stamp, I'm making sure my paper is sitting in the area, because that's where I want the stamp to be. So again, you can see when I place that down onto the image, I know it's going to sit towards the top of my paper, because when I go down to stamp it, I'm going to make sure that that piece of paper is sitting within that area. So that's how you can always guide it. But I found this to be the easiest way to set up an acrylic block. And so it's always a larger size acrylic block. And you can see we're doing the same thing. Used my Tumbled Glass again, and now I'm using the Solar Flare shimmer powder into that. And again, when you do the two different colors, you want to make sure that they match together. You don't want to make mud. So blue and yellow, red and yellow, and so forth. So, because then you'll get those blends. So here's the final one that we're going to do. And this time I'm using warm lipstick, and I'm going to use Cherry Bomb. And I'm just going to drop that in. And then again, we spray it, we place it down on our paper. So, sorry about that, I hit one of the legs going on there. So just know that when it comes to the acrylic blocks, this is the only time I really use the Tim Holtz acrylic blocks, because they are thin, but they do come in a larger size so that you can have the different shapes of or sizes of paper so that you can mark off with them. And this is what they look like when they dry. I did use my Ranger heat gun, not my Wagner, for embossing, just to dry them up. So again, now we're going to do the same thing, except this time we're going to use the piece that we stamped with our watercolors. Same thing, we're going to place the other stamp over it. It does take the shape. And now I'm using my jet black archival ink for the second part of the stamp. And we're going to place that down, make sure that the cardstock we're using is placed in the center of the washi tape. And we're really going to push down because, again, this is watercolor paper, so it is textured. And with the second stamp, it pulls out the shape of the flower. So you've got these blobs of color, so to speak. And then when you put the outline onto it, it now takes its shape. So it's not a perfect science. It's not like our 2 or 3 layer stamps that we have where, you need to kind of be almost perfect in positioning, not too much, but these, you're going for a watercolor look. So it has that resemblance that you actually watercolored these. So now that they're set, we're going to do our sentiments, and I chose a couple from a Sweet Pea stamp set. It does not have a name, but it is a Mother's Day stamp set, and I'll make sure that it's linked below. I used my Nuvo Glacier White embossing powder, and then we're just going to trim these up, and I'm using my Fisker 9-inch blade runner to cut these sentiments down into the strips that I'm looking for. I also used my Penny Black antique frame dies to cut out pieces of black cardstock, which will be the backdrop for these. I was considering to actually cut these out, but I didn't want to take away any of the color or the form of the flowers that I had. So I'm just going to use these straight on, and I'm going to use my vintage photo to go around it just to make them stand out off of the black a little bit. I'm going to use my industrial strength double-sided foam tape. It's very strong. So once you get it down, it does not move. But it is difficult to work with, so it's tough to get the backing off. So now I'm just playing with the placement of my sentiments onto my cards, and I'm going to use my Nuvo liquid adhesive to put them in place. And then once they are set onto the watercolor panels, I'm going to trim off the edges. I didn't want it, since it's black on black, I didn't want that to go to each side of the cards. I wanted these to be almost little picture frames onto my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding card bases that I have sitting up there in the left hand corner ready to go. This one was giving me headaches because it's a wider sentiment and that flower was a little bit big. I should have, maybe if I put it up a little higher, I would have done the same thing, but that's okay. We still move along with it, and we just set that aside, and we will set that sentiment onto our card in a different way. I actually kind of like it. So once these are set, I'm going to remove my backing and set them up onto my frame backdrop, and I'm just going to adhere these down, again, using my Nuvo liquid adhesive. And here's this one that still doesn't have a sentiment. And I figured, let's just put that right along the corner there. And I think it looked really, really sharp. So setting that down, this one will extend to each of the corners, and I will trim off those corners as well. And yes, you will see me change my scissors because I like my big shears. I can just do it in one cut right along the edge. So I think that looks sharp, makes it stand out just a little bit more. And those are our cards. So this is just my way to say to everybody here, all of my followers, I hope you have a wonderful, happy Mother's Day. Whether you're a mom or whether you're celebrating with your mom. And if you're not able to, we still celebrate. And I hope you have a great day. So here are the close-ups of the cards. Again, just wanted to stop in. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. A lot is more to come, so many different things. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below as well. And in the description, I will have a link to all the products that I used in this video. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And always remember, be creative.